Good morning, AGS crew, and welcome to this week's video. First off, congrats to Scott getting married last night, and Steve, it was great to meet you in person finally. Next, I want to give a final reminder of the trade deadline. All trades must be accepted by the end of Monday Night Football. So tomorrow night, make sure to get those in if you have any last minute trades. All right, we have just 3 weeks left in the regular season. The standings are pretty damn tight through 10 weeks. Let's get right into it. We will start things off with a rapid recap of Week 10. First up is Jeff First Jason. Jason loses this one despite Justin Jefferson having a fantastic game. He accounted for a third of Jason's point total and was one of only 2 players on his team to score more than 10 points this week. Jason is on a downward trajectory though. He's lost to the league median 4 weeks in a row and winning just one of his last 4 matchups, going 1-7 after starting the year 5-7. Jason has never scored under 100 points in a week. However, he does lead the league in scoring less than 110 points, doing so 4 times out of 10 weeks. The next closest to that are Taro and Dalton, who have each scored under 110 only twice. Jeff, who has been hit or miss this year, he hit this week. He put up his 3rd highest score of the season with fantastic games out of Jones, Jacobs, McLaurin, and Davis. Jeff wins this one handily. Next up is Steve versus Dalton. Steve crushes this one, hitting 200 points for the 2nd time this season, over 180 points for the 4th time this season, and he's only scored under 140 points once all season so far. Justin Fields had an absolute Fields day against the Lions, scoring nearly 50 points. Great weeks from Adams and Diggs as well. I thought Steve had one of the weakest teams coming out of the draft, but boy did he prove that wrong. He also has a great set of young players, and it looks like he'll be a force to be reckoned with for seasons to come. Dalton, on the other hand, ends his winning streak and drops this matchup as well as losing to the league median. Really had no shot here against Steve, but had nice games out of Dak and Amon-Ra St. Brown. This loss didn't matter, though. He keeps first place in his division and that coveted playoff spot. Brad versus Scott. Brad, continuing to fight for a playoff spot, takes the win here and moves to 12-8. Kelsey with 21, another 21 from Rodgers, and Jeff Wilson going for 119 yards and a touchdown against the Browns. Brad is technically still in the running for his division, 4 games back from Steve, but I don't expect Steve to let off the gas. You're probably looking at a wild card spot. Brad does hold the tiebreaker over Steve, though, so we shall see. Scott retakes last place this week. Only 3 players above 10 points, and not much happening on his bench either this week. After scoring a season high of 165 points in Week 8, I thought he might have a little life left in him. It doesn't seem to be the case, though, scoring less than 120 points for the past 2 weeks since then. Matt against Taro. Matt putting up a season high of 190 points, led by Patrick Mahomes, and finally got a good game out of Jonathan Taylor. James Conner and Dalvin Cook also helping him with the win, and a goose egg from your defense didn't matter here. Great timing to have your team go off while you're fighting to get into the playoffs. Matt moves to 11-9. Taro with a tough loss this week, really hurting your playoff chances, drops to 9-11. Some disappointment from Waddle this week and really scraping the bottom of the barrel on quarterbacks and running backs. Taro seems to be conceding this year, though, with a couple of last-minute trades to build up his draft capital for next season. Probably wants to get a first-round running back or quarterback next year, if I had to guess. Next up is Nick versus Josh. Can't call him Juggernaut Josh anymore. Great weeks from Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, but not much else went well for Josh this week. He sets a new season low for himself, and the wheels might start falling off with this Jerry Jeudy injury. Josh averaged 178 points in the first 5 weeks of the season, which is crazy, but he only had 142 points on average in the second 5 weeks of the season. Still very respectable, but not the kind of trajectory that you want to see coming into the playoffs. Somehow, Josh still won this matchup, though, finally benefiting from some matchup luck. Nick puts up only 110 points, and nothing to spare on his bench either. Great week from Josh Allen as usual, but pretty mediocre weeks from McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Butker, and others. Nick's still in playoff contention, but needs to tread carefully here. Last up, myself going up against Todd. First place against last place, and Todd comes away with a big upset here. I had a disappointing week from Cooper Kupp, who scored just 1.4 points, and it looks like he might not come back in time for the fantasy playoffs either with that injury. Mediocre performances from the rest of my team as well. Somehow, I squeaked a win against the median, helping me keep my divisional lead. Also helps me only fall 1 game back from Steve, and I keep my 2-game lead over Josh. Todd breaking the mold. He's been ridiculously consistent this year, around 120 points every single week. He put up 141 this week, though, his third highest score of the season, led by a monster game from CeeDee Lamb and nice weeks out of Komet and Mariota as well. This win pushes Todd out of last place, but it's still a very tight race at the bottom, and you still have a great chance of winning the license plate cover, so don't worry about that, Todd. All right, with that, let's talk about the standings. Steve moves into first place, helped out by me losing my matchup this week. Steve is also the first and only team to clinch a playoff spot, although he's only 5 games ahead of Matt and Nick with 6 matchups left. They play each other this week, and so there's no chance of him being bumped down to 7th. And even if he does end up tied for 6th place, he has a 250-point lead over Matt and almost 300 over Nick, so he'd win those tiebreakers and make the playoffs. Josh, Steve, and myself all have a 4-game lead in our divisions. Not enough to guarantee that we're the division winners, but it'd be tough to overtake us at this point. We're now battling for those 2 first-round buys. Dalton still leads the old school division after all 3 of those teams lost their matchups and against the median this week. That's by far our tightest division right now. It's like we're playing hot potato with that playoff spot, and we're going to have a team with a losing record in the playoffs because of it. Down at the bottom of the standings, we have a tight race for last place between Todd, Jason, and Scott, and Dalton. Yes, Dalton is either in the playoffs or fighting for last place. Very weird spot to be in. Lastly, the wildcard spot is the most contested playoff position with 5 teams fighting for 2 spots. Brad, Matt, Nick, Jeff, and Taro, all with great chances of making it. I'm excited to see how the last 3 weeks of the regular season unfold. Just a reminder, these are our second divisional matchups, so a lot on the line in the next few weeks. Now for my favorite part of the week, updated playoff odds after week 10. Like I said before, Steve is the only one to clinch a playoff spot. Congrats to Steve. And nobody is officially eliminated just yet, not even Todd. Matt, with a huge win last week, more than triples his playoff odds and now has about a 50-50 shot of making it. Taro drops to just an 8% chance of making the playoffs, and with his recent trades, it could be even lower. Nick had the biggest drop in his playoff odds this week, slashing his chances in half and dropping to just a 1 in 3 shot of making it now. Those are the major changes in the playoff odds. I expect we'll see a lot of movement after this week, week 11, and have more teams clinch, probably some eliminations from playoffs contention as well. All right, let's switch gears and go over the payout updates. Steve wins the top scorer prize this week, and for the second time this season. Congrats to Steve. The top rookie prize also sits with Steve with 156 points from Dameon Pierce. With just 3 weeks left, I expect Steve's going to take this one. I don't think anybody could catch up to his point total. For the waiver wire wizard, it's much closer. Jacoby Brissett holds the lead for Matt right now, but Suckup is still in the running. He would need a few big games here to make a comeback, maybe an injury from Brissett, but still in the running. You never know what's going to happen. Looking ahead to week 11, we have a lot of good matchups. Again, the next 3 weeks are the second round of divisional matchups, so a lot on the line. Don't forget that the trade deadline is tomorrow night. Trades must be accepted before the end of the Monday Night Football game. And that's going to be the end of this week's video. I hope everyone enjoys week 11 and good luck in your matchups.